Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another Journaling on a Budget video. And in this video, I'm going to show you what you can do if you have a page that you really like, a full page, but you really don't know what to do with it. And you don't want to put it in your book and fold it in half this way because, then everything would be sideways. So I'm going to show you what I do sometimes when I have full-size pages that I really like the looks of. But to start with, I am going to show you on our Build Your Stash and Craft this week, we did the sewn pockets to hold all of our flat fun phone stamps. And, I had mentioned that, yes, you could use a sewing machine if you had one. And I did after that. I sewed some because I thought it would be so much easier. But I just wanted to show you, now I don't have the best machine in the world. My machine was $59 at Walmart. So it's a cheap machine, or maybe it was $69, but it's a cheap machine, but it's a Brother, and it's, a nice starter machine. But, the threads, got a little bit loose in places, and it looks a little messy. And I put mine on the largest stitch that you possibly could use, because if you did little stitches, it would just perforate this so bad that it would be like a perforated paper and it would be easy to tear. And I even think this would be kind of easy to tear. But it does work with the sewing machine. I'm not as happy with the looks of it. It doesn't feel as solid as the ones that we hand sewed in Build Your Stash and Craft. And it was a little bit quicker, but it wasn't a lot quicker. But I did this to hold my different templates, corner pockets and just all different sorts of things like that. So I wanted to show this because I told one of the ladies, she said, well, I wonder what sewing would work like. It does work, and it works just fine. And, maybe if your machine is better, maybe my tension wasn't right. I just wasn't super happy with it. I like the way the other one looks better, and it just seems to feel solid. So I wanted to show you that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I want to do with this. I'm going to use this to make as much as I can to add into our journal, like as a one-page spread, but in pieces. So what I've done here is I have this postcard that we made these. I believe we made them in Build Your Stash and Craft, or we made them on Journaling on a Budget. I don't remember, but I'll put a link below to where we made our own postcard stamps. And so what I did was I just put this on a piece of paper. I traced around it, and then I just used my scissors to go in and cut it out. Now, I'm going to do this one too, so I'll just go ahead and I'll show you what I did there. But just go ahead and have a pencil somewhere. Here we go. And just trace around it so that you know the size. But because what we're doing here is we're making a little viewing screen so that we can hold it onto our page and then see what it looks like. And then I just go into the middle. And I didn't draw like all the way around it because I always cut my corners off so that they don't get too much paint or ink on them. And, so I don't even have a corner there to go to. But I just go ahead and just go out to that line. This doesn't have to be exactly perfect because it's just more or less you want to see what it's going to look like if you were to choose a piece of your page to make a postcard out of. So I just cut a little bit past where I drew, so I know I went as far as the next line. And you could also, if you wanted to, you could hold a ruler up here and use your X-Acto knife to cut it out also. Just whatever you're most comfortable with. I find scissors to be a little bit faster, and then I don't have to get out my cutting board and that type of thing. So now we have this little viewing window that will fit this size postcard. So if I say, well, I really like the looks of this right here, well, then I just hold this on here and I say, well, is that going to make a nice picture? Or maybe I want to put it over here. So, and for this one, I think I'm going to make the large one. And I'm just going to kind of see, do I like this corner or this corner? And I do try and, stick to the corners so that I have all of the rest of my page left over. But I think really... I think that I really like this bottom corner the best, and so that's the one I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is because I just ripped this out of my book, is I'm going to cut this straight. And whenever you're cutting with your cutters or anything, make sure that you use a side. We know this is straight. It came out of our book this way. So use that to butt up against your trimmer. And I just want to make sure that I cut off those jaggy edges so that you know that this is straight and you know that this is straight. Whoops. It's straight so long as you don't move it. Alrighty. So there we go. Now we know we have a straight line there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little template here and I'm going to put it right on that corner. Just line it up on both sides, and then I'm going to just make a line at the top because on the bottom I've already got these two sides cut. And then I'm going to put a line over here. And then I'm just going to use my trimmer to cut on those lines. I'm just going to find that line and line it up. That looks about right. Yep, that worked out well. And then I'm just going to go to this one up here. That looks pretty good. And now I have got my piece for my postcard. Now, the back of this has something on it. That's pretty too. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to go ahead and glue this to a piece of cardstock so that I can stamp my postcard on the back of this. And now we've got this left and we've got this left. Now this right here you could use for a belly band in your book, and that would work out really nicely. And this is a pretty thick piece of paper, but if you wanted it to be a little thicker, just glue it again to your cardstock. And then this one here, I'm just looking at top and bottom. I'm thinking about putting a pocket at the bottom of my page so that I can tuck my postcard in there. And I'm just trying to decide, do I want the top? Do I want the bottom? And I'm going to look at it sideways too, because what's left over, I'm going to make into a tag. So let me just grab a piece of paper here. So if I were to cut this part off for my pocket, this is what I would have left. Would that make a pretty tag, or would it look better over here? And as a pocket, would this look better, or would this look better? I think I really like this as a pocket and this as a tag. So that's the way I'm going to cut it. This is going to be my pocket. Is that? Let's see. I'm going to make this my pocket. Okay, and I like my pockets to be about 2.5 inches tall. That way they'll hold larger items, but you can put shorter things in there too, and they won't totally get lost down inside your pocket. So now there we have our pocket. And now we have this left. Now, is that too wide to be a tag? I actually could use this to make a postcard of this size, or maybe even, where's our larger postcard? It doesn't quite fit our larger postcard. But I don't think I want 2 postcards. I think that I want a tag in here. And so, but this is quite wide this way. And I've got a lot of space this way. So now in looking at it, I'm going to measure it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 inches. I'm going to cut it in half. So I'm going to go to 3 1/4 and cut it in half. And now I have 2 tags, and actually it looks better that way. So now we have everything that we want to put into our book. And what we'll do is we'll glue this onto our cardstock so that on the back of these we have writing space. We don't need to glue our pocket onto cardstock unless we want it thicker. And then we also have this belly band that we could use maybe on the page next to this page. and we have the piece that we are going to stamp with our postcard. So I'm going to go ahead and glue all this to the cardstock, and I will be right back. Okay, I have all the rest of them glued, and I just wanted to show you how I do my gluing on these. So you don't want to get them, I use tacky glue, and you don't want to get them too wet. So what I do is I cut a very small hole in the top of my tacky glue. When you cut this off, the further down you cut it, the larger your hole will be. So I cut it very close to the top, so my hole is very small. And then all I do is I just put it on and rub it as I go, and it is coming out very lightly. It may look like I'm putting a lot on, but there's hardly any coming out as I do this. And I'll show you up close in just a second so you can see how much I put on here. But you don't put on too much. You kind of want to spread it everywhere. And then this is how much I put on there. And it even looks like more in the camera than it is. It's a very light coating. And then what I do is just hold it down, start in the middle, and I do it on a magazine so that I can move it over if I need to, and I can go right off of the paper so that I'm getting all the way to the very edge of what I'm doing. And I'm going to move it over just a little bit, move my hand so that I can get down here. This way I get the glue all the way out to the very edges, because that's really important. And then I'm just going to take that and put it on my cardstock. Now, it really doesn't matter which way I do it. Now, this is for the pocket. Okay, now spread it down good, and then take a very damp, and I mean just squeezed out as hard as you can, and then just go around the edges, especially in case you got a little bit of glue on there, because on a shiny picture, if you get glue on there, the tacky glue is going to make it matte, and you're going to see that. So if you wipe it with a barely damp towel, that takes that off of there, and then you don't get those little marks where your glue was. Even if your tacky glue is dry, you can carefully take a barely damp towel and just kind of wipe across it, and that will usually come off when it's on shiny paper like that. So, and then once you get that done, then you just go ahead and cut it out. Now on the other ones, I cut them all with, no I didn't, I cut the tags and the belly band with edges. Try and get this to where it's easiest for me. I'm going to line this up. And this one, I am not going to cut with an edge. Now I'm cutting off this whole strip. That's okay. I can use it for something later. I don't throw those little pieces away. But usually when I'm working on something, I don't always really look at. On the top of my pocket, I wanted to leave just a little bit of an edge. So I'm going to do that, because some of the others have edges on them, so it'll just kind of make it go together better. And there we go. Now this is my pocket. I did cut this down to the width of our book, and that is how I glue them on there. And then you can edge them, and that's why I left a little bit of paper on there so the edging would show up even more. And so here is our postcard. Now I wanted to show you, when you glue things, a lot of times they're going to curl on you. Once they dry, we're going to pretend that this is the edge of my kitchen counter, because that's what I usually use. But what I do is you just grab a hold of the very edge and hold with this hand nice and flat, and don't pull real hard, but just pull down. Because it was curled this way, that will help flatten it back out again. And so now it's much less curled. I've got just a little bit here, and so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do it this way. And put your hand right here next to the edge of your counter, or the edge of whatever you're using, and then just kind of pull down. And now it's really pretty flat. And that's how you flatten out your curls when you've got when you put glue on them, or even paint or anything that makes your papers curl. Wait till they dry, and then just put them on the edge of a flat surface and curl them over the edge. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put, now I need to make sure this is the top. So I want to make sure that when I put this on here, that that's the top. And I'm going to use some stays on. Put that up there. And I'm just going to rub it on here. You can rub it, you can pat it, you can do it however it seems to work best for you. Oops. I'm probably way out of frame. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so I've got my stays on here. Now this is, sorry for shaking the table. This is twine, so these lines are not going to be a real super solid line. This is a little template I have to stick inside, so any of the stays on that I got in this big flat spot, I don't get on my postcard. And I'm going to throw this magazine down here, because I got a lot of stays on the table. I'll make sure that I've got it. That's the right side up. This is the top of my postcard. So I'm just going to do my best to line it up. Once you touch the paper, that's it. Put it down. Don't try and move it, because just like any other stamp, if you try and move it, once it's touched, you're going to have a mess. And this magazine didn't help me any keeping my paper still, so I'm not sure if I actually touched it or not. I'm going to rub around the edges because I know I have that line around the edge. I'm going to rub the line that I have here, and here is where my address is and my stamp. I'm going to give that stays on a chance to soak in. I'm going to shut it up while I'm waiting. Whenever you're working with your permanent inks, they are alcohol-based, they dry up quickly, so make sure that you try and always keep them capped. And there we go. So there is our postcard. And I'm just going to let that dry just a little bit. Set it aside. And then I have chosen in our book, this is our first signature, I think. Nope, second signature. This middle page, I really like the coloring of this coffee dyed paper, so this is the one we're going to use, and I like that it's a middle spread, because that way we can do both sides. Okay, and so I have some distress inks here, and I've got my stays on, but I think I want to put a little bit of I want to do just a little bit of distress inks on the edge of all of these. So this one is, what is it? This is Wild Honey, which is just a really nice, it's not a too-in-your-face orange. You know, it's not super bright, but it's not dull either. It's a very nice orange. And I'm going to kind of really come up onto that cream-colored cardstock that I left there, because then I'm going to go ahead and use, this is Vintage Photo, and I am just going to just hit the edges with this. When you're edging, you really shouldn't do it, well, especially like, I always let my pads get old and forget to replace them. And then they start to shed little bits that have ink on them. So I'm going to move this page, because I noticed I did get some on there. And I'm going to edge all of this, and I will be right back, and we'll put it together. Okay, so I have everything edged. We have the pages we want to put them on chosen. And this is why I love to use the rubber bands for the books to hold in your signatures, because you can just slide out. Now this was a center page, but you can slide out any page that you want to, and then work on it and then put it back in your book. And that's what I love about it. I just have this little background stamp that I made. I just made this with, I think this is made with corrugated cardboard, but I want to put some background on the back of these pages, just so that it's not just this flat white tea dyed. And I'm using the orange, and then I'll go back in and put some brown on it also. And just kind of, you know, twist your stamp different ways. And this one's going to have the belly band, so mostly I just really need to get the edges, but it really doesn't matter. I can put it all over. Okay, and then I'm just going to go in with the other end just because it's a little bit different, and go ahead and use the brown one that we used. And that will just tie everything together. And you can do this if you have some nice word stamps or something. You can put anything on here that you would like to. You can even use your larger stamps, and then what will be nice on this, which I don't have here, but is to find some words out of magazines and put those on our page also. So let's see, we've got everything pretty much ready to put together. We'll start, I think I want the belly band on this side and the pocket on this side. Or do we want it the other way around? I always try things because I'm never sure exactly how I want it. And sometimes when I look at it, no, I do like it better this way. Sometimes when I look at it, I find that the way I wanted it is just the opposite of how it looks best. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue these on. And I'm just using tacky glue. And just make sure that you get enough on there so that you're going to get a really nice hold. For pockets, you don't really want to use double-sided sticky tape, because if you do, what happens is when you stick your tags and stuff in there, that double-sided sticky tape is always sticky, and even on the edges. So when you slide your pocket down, or your tags down into your pocket, that double-sided tape will actually kind of grab. You'll slide this down in here, and that tape is down here. When this hits that tape, especially if it sits for a while, when you go to take that out, it's going to be stuck to that tape. You will be able to rip it out of there, but you will literally kind of have to like rip it out of there. So always use glue for pockets, and for any kind of a tuck spot where you're going to tuck something in there. That's just my suggestion. So now we've got that pocket on. We'll get the belly band on. And then I think the only thing that I'll have left to do, which I'm going to do off camera because I don't have any idea how long it would take me to find a word, but or when I'll get a chance to do that. But I'm going to put my belly band in the middle. And when I cut this picture, I cut it a little bit shorter than my page so that I would have the added space to put that cardstock behind it and let it stick out. Because I like to, especially on belly bands, I like to kind of have a cardstock back, and that's whether I'm making it out of fabric or anything. I almost always stick a piece of cardstock behind it and let it stick out a little bit if you can. Now, usually I don't on fabric. I don't let it stick out, but I cut them nice and even so that when you go to tuck under there, that cardstock doesn't catch anything. It just works really nice to slide things in and out without having a problem. So there we go. We have our pocket. We have our belly band. We have 2 journaling tags that I thought I was going to make into tags, but I liked the size as a journaling tag. I rounded the corners just with one of our little templates that we made when we did our tag corners a while back. And so I rounded those corners so they look like journaling tags. I'm not going to put anything on them because they're a journaling tag, not a regular tag. And then we've got our, okay, so this is what we had left. We had these 3 pieces left out of that whole page. That's it. And I really think that I want to put a stamp on the back of this postcard. So I am just going to rip this. Okay, so that's about the right size, so I don't want to rip off too much, but I want a ripped kind of jaggedy edge, just because stamps kind of have a jaggedy edge, not a straight cut edge. Of course, obviously it's not going to look exactly like a stamp, but that's not the point. Really with art, it's more about giving the idea of what you're doing versus it being perfect. Unless, if you're doing fine art and, you're doing portraits or something, well, then you're going to want them to be as perfect as possible. But in your mixed media art, It's more about the feeling, the idea. Do people understand what it is that you were trying to do when you did it? Not does it look like the actual thing that I say this is a stamp, but it doesn't look like exactly like a stamp. And there we go. I'm going to rip off just a little bit more because I think I want these lines to show a little bit. And it's all about just trial and error. You just do it, try it, see what it looks like. And I don't like it, then change it. There, I like that. They're sticking out just a little bit, but just a very little bit. I'm going to put my glue on the back of here. And because it's just a stamp, I'm not going to worry about spreading it to the edges or whatever. Oh, I should have. Well, we'll do it really quickly, but I'm going to move that on those white edges. I need to edge them a little bit. There we go. And it's definitely still sticky on the back, so I'm going to go ahead and put that right there. And there we go. Now that back is not so plain. Now there's a spot for someone to journal. There's a spot for you to write something to someone that you're giving this journal to. Send them a little postcard right inside their journal. And there we go. We're just going to take this, and it goes in there. And then we're going to put a word up here. And I think that that page, other than putting that up there, is done. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope that you liked making these or watching me make these, and I hope that you make some and enjoy doing it yourself. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate you stopping by, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.